Hey guys, Erik here, Florida High Performance. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. Thank you for visiting. Don't forget, subscribe, like. Your support helps this channel grow. So thanks for being here with me today. Behind me is a very special vehicle, as are all the vehicles we build here. This is Eddie's 2022 ZL1. It has come to us for a plethora of bolt-on modifications. Now, the reason we're doing a feature on this vehicle and what makes this so special is the fact that Eddie actually takes this thing to the track. He does live here in the state of Florida, and he does frequent Sebring Raceway, which is just north of us. He contacted Florida High Performance and wanted to add some more power to the car, but was also a little concerned about the reliability and the trackability, if you will, of the car after adding those modifications. So what I thought we would do is mod the car, film the process, talk a little bit about the parts, and then actually go and take this vehicle on the track with Eddie, with the owner of the car, and see exactly how it does. I get a lot of phone calls from people who actually track their ZL1s. They don't just drag race them, they take them to different road courses around the country, around the state, and they drive them hard, and for the most part the ZL1s do really well. But what happens when you start adding headers? What happens when you start adding a ported supercharger and things of that nature? What happens to the intake air temps and the manifold air temps? These are all things we're going to talk about. Now, I will preface the rest of this video by saying that we are going to do some basic modifications on this car, and we are purposely omitting a few modifications that I would normally recommend to people that are going to road race something like this. But we're doing that for the sake of science. We're doing that for the sake of this video and testing. Basically, what we're going to do is keep his standard rotofab that he has. We have a Jokerz full tilt LT4 supercharger we're going to throw on here with an upper pulley. We're not going to change the lower pulley, so just an upper. No heat exchanger tank, no expansion tank, anything like that. So no heat exchanger intercooler modifications at all. We're going to add a low side DSX fuel system, an auxiliary fuel system, just to make sure we have enough low side. We're going to leave the high side alone. We're going to go with a set of Kooks 2-inch headers and some off-road connections, or an off-road long system to his existing Corsa exhaust, and hit the dyno and see what it does. So I'm not expecting huge gains as far as boost is concerned. I would be happy with maybe 12, 13, 14 pounds of boost, somewhere in that range. We did just baseline the car, it did very well. So we'll talk about the numbers, the baseline numbers, obviously at the end of the video, and we'll talk about the gains. But more importantly, we want to build a setup that can drive in the street, that can go to the track, and that doesn't overheat, that doesn't heat soak, and that performs time and time again. Our concern is if we do maybe an upper or lower, or make 15, 16, 17 pounds of boost in this thing, that we're actually going to create too much heat, and at the track could be an unreliable, poor performing package. So again, this video is going to focus around basic bolt-ons you could do in your ZL1, and we're going to see how it does real time at the track. And I really cannot wait for those results. It's going to be fun. We're going to spend a day out on the racetrack and see exactly what a ZL1 can do with those modifications, and we will see what happens. So stick around. I'm going to go over the parts we're installing, how to install it, how that process works, all the way through to custom tuning, and then again we're going to hit the track with Eddie and see just how this 2022 ZL1 does. All right, so here is Eddie's 2022 ZL1. As I said, we just baseline tested it. We will go over baseline results later in the video when we discuss the gains, the power, and all that stuff. So, but every vehicle here gets baseline. Why? It gives us a good starting point. It lets us know where our horsepower and our torque is. If there's any issues with the vehicle, we find out now, not later after we work on it. So again, every build here at Florida High Performance gets a baseline test. That being said, I want to go over real quick what we have here. This is your standard run-of-the-mill ZL1 engine bay. That's the LT4, of course, supercharged 650 horsepower engine from GM. And all that this vehicle has right now is a standard rotofab intake. We will be keeping this intake. Normally I would say we go with a big gulp to mate with the 103 throttle body that we're going to upgrade on Eddie's car with the ported lower. But in this particular case, again, for the sake of testing and just keeping this a very simple build, we're going to keep the standard rotofab. We are going to upgrade to a 103 throttle body, and we will upgrade to a full tilt LT4 supercharger. And also during the process, we'll be adding a DSX flex fuel sensor as well as a DSX low side. And the hope is maybe we can add a little E85 to the build too. We're not really sure yet. I'm not thinking we'll be able to add very much. but maybe E25, E30, something like that to pick up a few more ponies and help with performance. So I'm gonna go ahead and get to work. First things first, I'm gonna pull off the intake, get the supercharger off. I'm gonna do everything in the engine bay first, and then we will move it to getting this car into a lift and move on to the DSX low side as well as the Kooks long tube headers. I will videotape the majority of that process so you guys can see what it takes, and we'll see what happens. So here we go. Let's get ready to dig into this bad boy, get her done, get her back on the road. I would like to go over the parts that we're going to be installing. Again, lots of questions. Why do I port my blower? What are the advantages? Why do I run a long tube header? What are the advantages? Why a larger throttle body? Why a low side? I'm going to kind of touch on each item real quick. I'm going to give you basic mechanical advantages or reasons why you would want to upgrade to these items, and then we're going to move on and get started. I've covered this before. This is a Jokerz full tilt ported LT4 supercharger. I'll be taking eddies off and I'll be putting this on. It's got a 103 snout. It's going to accommodate the 103 throttle body. Okay, why? More air, period. More airflow. It makes this thing way more efficient. The stock LT4 supercharger is okay. Has a lot left to be desired. By porting it, it just improves the way this thing's going to work. It's going to help us make more torque and more horsepower. He also has a race port. Race port typically is reserved for race applications or heads cam, max effort, stuff like that. Full tilt is the way you want to go, especially in a bolt-on car. But it will also work really well with heads cam. This is the same exact blower that I have on bad pumping. All right, moving on. So Jokerz full tilt. NGK 6510 plugs. It's an iridium plug, a little colder than stock. We will gap them accordingly, and that's pretty much the standard that most people use in these cars. It's NGK 6510. DSX flex fuel sensor. Why? We're going to be running a little bit of E85 in this car. Not really sure yet of the percentage we'll end up with, but we need a flex fuel sensor to be able to monitor the amount of E85, the percentage of E85 that's in the fuel. DSX low side. Why? So we can run E85. This isn't the end all be all. Obviously there's more robust fuel systems out there, but Dave and his crew have put together a really excellent package. This kit is plug and play. You do have to drill into your tank, which seems a little scary to some people. I do it all the time, but anyway, this is an auxiliary fuel pump. It's going to tie into the factory fuel system. It's completely controlled with the controller that they send with the kit. And again, it's going to supply more volume on the low side fuel system to the high side system. So that's going to help us squeeze a little bit of E85 out of this setup. 103 throttle body, plain and simple. It's larger than stock, more air in, more performance, and obviously it's mated to that Jokerz 103 snout, right? We don't want to run a 103 snout with a stock throttle body. If you can avoid it, why not? You know, why wouldn't we upgrade? So that's a standard go-to item. AeroForce gauge. Why are we putting an AeroForce gauge in there? He would like to monitor his intake air temps and things like that while he's racing. This gauge plugs directly into the OBD port and is programmable and will read whatever parameters he wants to see that the ECU is outputting. So very, very nice little piece, and I'll talk more about that at the end. Kooks header. We're going to go with a Kooks long tube header. This is a 2-inch primary. We're going to go with their long mid pipe to Eddie's existing Corsa axle back. Real quick, why 2-inch over 1.7 Why 1.7 over 2-inch? Bottom line is this: 2-inch primaries will work fine on just about any 6.2 or higher out there. Technically speaking, an 1.7 would also work really, really well, but Eddie knows he's going to modify this car down the road, more power down the road, so we just opted at this time to go with a 2-inch primary. My rule of thumb is if it's a stock cube motor, if it's a 6.2 and you're not going to go absolutely balls out on it, an 1.7 primary is absolutely fine. If you think you're going to build the motor, if you think you're going to increase displacement, if you're going to go heads cam, max effort, anything like that, just bump up to the 2-inch. But guys, don't lose your minds. 1.7, 2-inch, it's literally such a small difference between the two. Anything under 1,000 horsepower, to be honest with you, probably not really going to see any difference. Okay, maybe a little less back pressure with a 2-inch compared to an 1.7. But we're splitting hairs. Don't lose your minds over it, guys. This particular build, we're going with 2-inch. Gates greenback belt. That's going to be the standard. When we upgrade, we're going to go with a 2.3 upper. I'm hoping with the 2.3 upper and the porter blower, we pick up approximately 4 pounds of boost over stock, and this thing's going to boogie. So I'm going to get to work. Again, if you guys have any questions on anything you see here, comment or email me or call. I'm happy to go through this stuff with you and why it works and how it works and why we use it. Okay, but this is a very, very, very tried and true setup that we're going to go with here. It's going to make great horsepower and torque. I think it's going to run really well at the track. And that's it. So we're gonna get to work. I'll see you guys on the other side. Derek and I have just completed the 93 octane tuning. We'll talk about the results, obviously, in a few. It did very well. Did exactly what I thought it was going to do, so that's good. Now we are adding a little bit of E85. So as you can see, I'm scanning his alcohol percentage, and we are currently at 22. We're going to shoot for about E30. So about 30% ethanol in the tank. I think we have enough low side and high side to get away with that. Should pick up really good power. And that'll be it. Be wrapped up with Eddie's car. And again, we'll talk about the results shortly. So that's it. We're waiting for that to get to 30, make another hit, and we will go from there. Hey guys, a little earlier I'd mentioned an AeroForce gauge. Eddie wanted to install a gauge that would show him his alcohol percentage and his intake air temps. These are two parameters that we want to kind of pay attention to. Obviously this car is a flex fuel car, and knowing your real-time alcohol percentage is useful. And then obviously when we go to the track, we want to keep an eye on those intake air temps, right? Those manifold air temps. So I told him about the AeroForce gauge. I've been using these things for a long time. They can't get any easier to install. You first of all, you order it for your vehicle. They make specific gauges for specific vehicles, this being a 6th generation Camaro. You order it, you have bezel choices, faces, different faces, the designs. Eddie went with the ZL1 face. They make this really nice pod. The pod basically just clips into where your factory vent would go, your defrost vent. That comes out and that pops in super easy. And what's really nice about this is a cable that comes with it passes down through the dash and plugs directly into your OBD port. Can't get any easier, guys. I really am a big fan of these. You can get dual gauges, single gauges. They also make wideband sensor adapter kits, so you can put a wideband sensor in and monitor your real-time wideband AFR here. Just a really, really great product. I'm not endorsed in any way by AeroForce by any means, but I do use these quite often. I like them a lot. So I've go ahead and fire up the car. I've already programmed this thing. Like I said, it's going to show us our alcohol content, and it's also going to show us our intake air temps. Now I put 93 back in this car after we were done tuning it, so the alcohol percentage is going to read a little lower than 30%, which is what we had while we were tuning it. So you can see we're at 21%. That number will continue to go down until it gets to about 10 or 11% with regular 93, sorry. And then our intake air temps, 116, so that's fine. I've been driving the car around for a little bit. Really easy to program. You just hit both of these buttons. You can basically scroll through any information that your ECU is going to put out. This will read. So again, anything you can think of. There's hundreds of different bits of information that the ECU is putting out. So again, we chose these two. Really cool product. Eddie's going to love this thing, and he'll be able to keep an eye on those two vitals, which are very important to us in this build. And that's it. Everything went really well. I don't have any complaints as far as the install goes. So everything was expected. Let's talk about the gains. I know everybody watches these videos. They wonder how much power the car made. I have my notes here in front of me, so if you don't mind, I'm going to take a look at them. There's going to be a lot of technical information I want to share. So as always, every car that comes into Florida High Performance does get a baseline test. This car was baseline tested with a Rotofab standard intake and his Corsa Axleback. The vehicle already had those modifications. Baseline horsepower through his 10-speed automatic in 6th gear was 555 rear wheel horsepower and 546 rear wheel torque. It was right about 10 pounds of boost. That's within range. The automatics usually 550, 560 wheel. The manuals 570 or so. They make a little bit more in the manual transmissions. So the baseline test was pretty spot on, considering it wasn't tuned or anything like that. So that was a good starting point. We went ahead and added the modifications and started the tuning on 93 octane. 17.5 degrees of timing, 13 pounds of boost is what we netted. So ported blower and a 2.3 upper got us right at 13 pounds, which is perfect. It's right where I wanted to be. On 93 octane, all the other modifications, we were able to net 642, 691. So 642 rebel horsepower, 691 foot-pounds of torque. Excellent horsepower gain. That's right, again, where I thought this car would be. 640, 650 wheel. More impressive is the torque, 691 foot-pounds of torque. It's almost 150 real wheel torque gain over the baseline. So definitely a nice kick in the butt there, and a lot of it's down low. That's thanks to the Jokerz ported blower. These things do really well down low and up top. So very, very good gains there. Again, 13 PSI, right in that sweet spot we want to be, so we don't overspin this blower or make it too hot. 17.5 degrees of timing. I took it like a champ. Perfect air-fuel ratio. So very, very pleased with that. After the 93 tuning was complete, we took a look at the fuel system. We figured we had just enough fuel system left to run E30. I always at least try to run E50. It's a little easier to mix for the client, but in this particular case, even with the low side, we were going to be close on the high side as far as, you know, safe rail pressure goes. So Derek, the tuner, and I opted to go E30. So I went ahead and poured some E85 into the tank. It mixed with the 93, netted us about E30, and the power was actually pretty good. We were able to run 20 degrees of timing, so it took another 2.5 degrees of timing. Still 13 pounds of boost, of course. E30 numbers were 663 and 709. 663 real horsepower, 709 foot-pounds of torque. Again, a really nice jump over the 93. I was figuring maybe 670 wheel on E30. We're right there, 663. The torque, again, amazing, 710 foot-power, 709 foot-pounds of torque on E30. Very respectable numbers in this car. Again, we're not after a record here. That's not the purpose of this build. As I prefaced in the beginning of this episode, this is something he's going to drive every day. This is something he'll be able to take to the racetrack. And we built it in a way that I think when he does a 20, 30, 40-minute session at Sebring or any other of those road course tracks, I don't think it's going to have any heat soak issues. I think it's going to run really well. We didn't do any heat exchanger upgrades, anything like that. Intake air temps or manifold air temps during the pulls or anywhere from 115 to 130 range. So normal, within normal limits, I would say. But the test is going to be hitting the track and seeing exactly what this thing does after, you know, again, 20, 30, 40-minute session, whatever it's going to be. So we've done everything we could do here at Florida High Performance. The tune is awesome. The parts are awesome. The install was great. The car made excellent power. I'm very, very pleased with it. Again, all in 6th gear through an automatic 10-speed. No changes to the TCM. At this point, I'm going to get this thing off the dyno, do a little street driving, a little street tuning, some adjustments with Derek Dunbar. We're going to make sure that this thing is 100%. We'll deliver it to Eddie. And not too far in the near future, we will hit the track with Eddie. We will bring our cameras and our laptop, and we will follow along as he hits the track and really tests this car. And we will do a follow-up and let you guys know how it did. Until then, thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you found it educational and interesting. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, what have you, on this build or any builds you see, please comment below. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate everybody's support. I hope you found this an interesting episode, and I think the cool part will be the racing for sure. So thank you again, everybody, for checking the video out, and we will see you at the track. Thanks, guys.